Hey everyone, Rage is here, back with a second episode of Running in Circles with Rage. We are nearing level 83 agility, so there's still room for a lot of these episodes, and by the sounds of the first one, it seems like this might be something that I'll keep doing. Um, got a lot of good suggestions from you guys. I have a few corrections to make from the last one, or just one big one. There's actually five different spells that use body runes, not three. There are two on Lunars. There is the Dream spell, which causes you to fall asleep and lay there and restore HP slightly faster than normal. And then there is the Stat Spy spell, which lets you look at your opponent's stats. Nonetheless, as the person mentioned, these are both still totally useless because you can eat food to heal, which is much faster and doesn't interrupt everything. And for Stat Spy, you can literally just look your opponent up. So the body runes are still, I think, revered probably as the most useless rune. And in honor of that, this entire Rage Circle Jerk today in beautiful Relica City will be about magic. And I came up with my brother quite a few different things that we dislike about the magic skill and problems with it, and have a few solutions, and I'll see what you guys think about them, and hopefully I can get you guys raging with me. All right, so without further ado, so when you start out, you go to Zaf and you get your fire staff and your air staff, and you're like, whoa, infinite runes. This is super awesome for a level 1 staff, right? And it has 10 magic, which is probably better than level 1 equivalents in range and melee, I think, or it's at least on par with them in terms of accuracy. And you're like, I wonder what the future has in store for me. And so you look on the magic guide and you're like, battle staff. That sounds pretty badass. So you save up that 7k and you buy that battle staff from Zaf, and what does it do? Hits your opponent harder with melee. It has the exact same plus 10 magic as the regular staff, even though it still requires 30 magic now. So they up the magic requirement by 30 levels, and nothing happened to it magically. The only thing it actually does is hit your opponent harder physically. And at 30 attack, you might as well be using an adamant weapon instead of the battle staff. Um, so that's a bummer, but you have faith in the system and you persevere and you keep going, train up to 40, and you're like, Mystic Staff. That sounds like some Gandalf level shit, right? No, it just hits your opponent even harder physically. And now by its hard is a overstatement because it's still fairly weak. In terms of a melee weapon, it's crush based and I think it's completely outclassed by Warhammer in every way. So this mystical staff is offering no mysticalness whatsoever compared to the level 1 staff of fire. Um, I guess when you think mystical, you envision Gandalf doing some like badass spell, not hitting them with his staff. I don't know what they intended for this. In EOC, I think they actually fixed it so that the staffs actually get better as you grow levels, which makes a lot of sense. I don't know what you guys think. I personally think it's really stupid that a level 1 staff has the plus 10 magic bonus, and the best staff in the game has a plus 20. So you only get to double your magical accuracy from 1 to 99 in the weapon slot. That is pretty bogus. Combine that with the fact that melee, your level 1 weapon gives about a 10 slash, and your level 75 gets a 13 times greater accuracy, the God Sword at 132. It's just not fair. I mean, obviously the magical armor gives bonuses, but at the full, like, melee gets its full accuracy by wielding one weapon, whereas with magic you have to risk your entire armor set, and you still get a mediocre accuracy in max gear compared to melee, which can get pretty close to 200, and especially range, which can get even higher, especially with the Armadyl crossbow and Armadyl and the likes. Uh, and that leads me to my next point, which is, I think we lagged out here. Anyway, that leads me to my next point, which is God Wars is completely biased against magic. No bosses. Oh, there we go. We connected. Okay. None of the bosses at God Wars are weak to magic. enough to actually make it useful. And none of the bosses really drop anything magical at all, except for the Staff of the Dead by Krill's Taroth. And even with the Staff of the Dead, it's for some reason requires 75 fucking attack. And if you're trying to be a mage, it's kind of disheartening to know that you have to get your melee up to the same level as any other meleeer just to use your best magic weapon. Like, you don't see range weapons require a physical attribute, and obviously the Staff of the Dead gives good melee stats, but I don't think any of the mages really asked for it to. I think that just came along with it. Like, I know with the Chaotic Staff, it required 30 attack still, but that was a lot more, like, realistic. And it wasn't, I mean, obviously, then again, that thing was another. I don't know what it is with Jagic's obsession of trying to make staffs good for bashing people rather than casting fucking spells. I want to be a goddamn wizard if I'm picking up a staff. If I want to hit someone with a sword, I'm going to fucking use a god sword, you know? But, so staffs are just, that I don't know what they're thinking. And then the autocast with staffs, I'm just going to hop over that. The autocast feature, I don't know. They tried to, like, I feel like it's a luxury to autocast or something. Like, in melee and range, it obviously you never stop until you run out of ammo or your weapon breaks or you die. You just keep attacking. But with magic, unless you have the right staff to autocast, you have to literally click for every single attack, and they make it like as inconvenient as hell in every single way just to do a fucking magic attack. One more thing about staffs: the only staff that has a special attack doesn't do anything in regards to magic at all. All it does is give you that pseudo pro melee esque effect. There are no magic special attacks. There are added effects with certain magic casts, but the same can be said for actually both melee and range, where you have enchanted bolts, and with melee you have poison and barrow set effects. But yeah, you don't get any special attacks if you choose to be a wizard, which is bogus. There shouldn't be like a bias. If you should be able to choose one of the three stats to train magic, melee, or range, and get the full arsenal of special attacks, good gear, good everything, you know. And with good gear, we're going to talk about magic armor now. Magic is supposed to be good against melee, and only 2 magic armors in the game really give any, actually 3 if you count skeletal, but Splitbark and then Aram's are the only ones that even really give melee defense, and they actually don't really give enough at all to really protect you from anything. The idea is that you're, as a mage, should be far casting, but that really never happens in reality. You're going to have to physically tank them up close a lot of the time, and magic gear should either... Well, I like what they did. I mean, I don't like damage absorption, but they finally made magic gear relevant against melee when they gave it high melee absorption. I think I hated that update, though. Don't get me wrong. With the Ganodermic, I think it absorbed like 30% of melee damage, which makes sense in the combat triangle scheme of things because it's magic. Yeah. And then we're going back to God Wars. I'm just jumping all over the place, but there's just a lot of things that bother me about magic, guys. I'm sorry. So we have the one magic weapon, and then there's no magic armor. There's a perfectly awesome range set in the form of Armadyl, and then you have Bandos, which is best melee armor in the game practically. And then there's no magic armor there, and there's no boss to kill with magic. And I think the only thing that would be fair is to actually add a 5th God Wars boss in the form of Zeros. Not Nex. It would be the same difficulty as the other 4, and it would be on the same floor as the other 4. And I know this will probably fuck with the lore, but it's 07 and we can or Old School RS, and we can write our own history. Magic deserves representation in God Wars. You should be able to have to fight, like Armadyl, you have to use range. Essentially, you can try to mage it. It won't work that well. But there needs to be something that forces you to use magic, and then it rewards you with magic armor, right? And then they can make some 5th God Sword. That'd be kind of cool. It doesn't have to be OP. It can just be something interesting. But yeah. So what else did I have to talk about? Okay, there's now some magic mechanics that bother me I was going to hit on. The first one is the difference between the Entangle spells and the Ice spells. And the problem here is in the coding of the spells, when you get hit by an ice barrage, the second the damage hits you and you freeze, you now have a 20-second timer on you saying you can't move for 20 seconds. I think it's like 10 seconds if you have Pro Mage on, or some reduced amount of time, I think. Anyway, so the second that you get damaged is the keyword is when you get damaged or hit. That's when you get frozen. With Entangle on the regular spellbook, when you cast the spell, it starts even if your opponent doesn't get frozen right away until the spell hits them, but that timer starts the second you cast the spell. So when you cast the 5-second snare spell, and let's say it takes a second and let's say it takes 2.4 seconds, which can actually happen if you're all the way across the screen from them. It'll take 2.4 seconds to get to them, which will leave them frozen for the duration of one attack before they can move. So you got gypped out about half your time. And so there's a lack of consistency in the spells. And the other thing, again, when I said to pay attention to when you get hit, when you cast a spell is when it determines the damage that's going to happen, that you'll get that XP drop right then. It can be another 2 seconds till you hit your opponent. How RuneScape works is it takes its damage between, if your max hit is greater than their health, it takes your hit between 0 and their health. So they can systematically abuse this. If you're fighting a pure mage, if you know how to eat correctly, you can never get killed as long as you have food. Because as long as you wait until they cast a spell and then you eat, if you eat in the duration between after they cast it and before it gets to you, you will always have that health that the food supplied you or more left over after the attack resolves. And that's just how magic works. And it's kind of stupid that range and melee, like, I think range, I'm not sure how range works, but melee is able to get around this kind of, because there isn't that huge delay between when they cast it and when it gets to them, because you have to be kind of up close with melee. And then with range, I think it's just that the arrows travel slightly faster than magic. But either way, magic gets boned in the long run. One last thing I want to talk about with magic was both melee and range have very high hitting weapons in the form of the dragon bolts, and with melee in form of like 50 different weapons. I don't know. Armadyl Godsword. Magic's max hit caps out at like 42 or something. On Slayer tasks. On players, it's like 37. Magic deserves like different attack speeds, I think, because all of its attack speeds are literally the exact same against players. Like, I think they should make some like faster mage spells, maybe, or like give us a little more stuff to have fun with. It's kind of boring just casting at the same speed. It makes you really predictable. It just takes a lot of fun out. There's a lot of room to make it more fun and interesting. Like, there should be a super slow ass 4.8 second cast time spell that can hit 50s and cost a lot of runes, yeah. But we should have the opportunity to do stuff like that. And like 50 isn't even that overpowered if it's a so if it's a 4.8 second cast that's swinging slower than a Godsword would, and its max hit would cap out below a Godsword. And I'm not saying it has to be exactly 50, but like, we should be able to hit more than 37 on another player with magic. It's its own skill. It deserves to. A lot of people say it's a support skill, which it kind of turned into that because Vengeance is more useful in a 1v1 than pretty much anything else. And that doesn't obviously require you to have magic robes or anything. But magic should be able to take on melee in a 1v1, just straight up, I think. And right now it just can't do that because of its mechanics. And what else did I want to say? All right, if you guys got any others, if you liked this one where I focused on a specific skill or area of Rage, please let me know. If you want me to go more general like I did last time, I can do whatever you guys want. I compiled a big list of things I don't like. I don't know if I said all this as eloquently as I would have wished, and I can clarify anything in the comments if you guys got any questions. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.